Anyway, my understanding on mandatory evacuations is that they will go door to door, because some people are indigent or, both uneducated and possibly disabled, or don't have money or have no place to feel they have no place to go. And so they just say they'll ride it out. This isn't a storm you can ride out. That's what they're trying to say. If you stay, you're going to die. And they've said it so many times. This is a life-threatening storm. This is not a storm you can ride out. And it just breaks my heart for the people who, not everybody has the money to, go get a hotel in Atlanta kind of thing, or, other cities that are inland from these cities that are being evacuated, which is basically the whole Carolina coasts and some of northern Georgia and Virginia coasts. And that can change by tomorrow too. I mean, it could go lower, or it could go higher. You never know with a hurricane. Is it going to turn and curl down? Is it going to turn and curl up and go north? Is it going to stall out and die at sea? When it comes onto land, after it hits the coastal towns and it breaks into the inland, what will that mean? Tornadoes, severe rain causing flash flooding. Do people take that serious? It's just kind of it's a situation that you just pray that people will listen to the authorities. And I think that if people are indigent, like they're too poor to be able to travel, they don't have a car, they don't have the money for a hotel, whatever, they take them to community places that have been pre-set up further inland. They get them there. They will take them there. That's my understanding. And people forget that FEMA is an organization that is just people. And they people think of it's federal, so it's government. We had organized wise, but FEMA volunteers are what they are. I mean, they can only do so much, and that's why the weathermen and women, the president, the governors and mayors are all trying to say, look, we cannot stress enough how important it is that you understand this isn't just any hurricane. This is one of the worst we've seen. They're likening it to Hurricane Hugo, which, that was devastation on a mass level. I remember at the time I was working for Reebok International, and we organized a team to go down there, and in the end I didn't go. And I don't remember if I didn't get to go, I didn't want to go, I don't know if it was just too much, because it was horrific. It's like these people who went to Haiti after the earthquakes and all. I had friends that went, and I didn't offer to go. I'll be honest, I didn't. I know my husband would have said no anyway, but I could have pushed through and said, honey, I think it's what I need to do. But I think that you have to physically be able to take what you are going to be confronted with. And I learned that from Hugo, because I know what it was. I was supposed to be in round 2. And when round 1 came back, they said, unless you're physically able, do not go. Now, I was in great shape back then. I mean, fantastic shape. I got up and was at a 6 a.m. aerobics class, blah, blah, blah. I was in good shape. I was also like many, many years younger. But for some reason, I think they even told us don't come. They didn't want anybody else from our office to come. That's what it was. Because I remember I was scared, but I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to help. I wanted to be, on the team that went. Probably some of it was ego back then. I was so young, and like I said, I was able, so I know that I would have probably wanted to, but and they told us what they witnessed. Hugo was horrible. It was what I remember the description of, not Sandy, Katrina, where even the places where people were told to go, like stadiums and places like that, were in horrible shape. Like bathrooms weren't working because the water systems were overflowing or something, so you couldn't even flush toilets. They just said that the waste stench was almost unbearable. What else is it? Well, just, the death. And my friends who went to Haiti, just the death in the streets. Besides breaking your heart, because you tried your best, to comfort people you didn't know, but also to stay strong so that you could do what you could do. And then after being there a week, the stench of dead bodies everywhere under the rubble. It's just, if you aren't able to do that, then send your money. Participate in what way you can. If you say, well, Beth, I don't have, extra money, I can't do that. Well, then send your prayers. That is costing you time. It's not that it's free. It's costing you time. And everybody can do something, I would also just say that I think that people who are in the path of the evacuees need to be thinking too, like we are. Here in Georgia, a lot of people are going to be coming in from coastal Georgia and the Carolinas, and so we need to go ahead and get our gas right now. Go ahead and get any sustainable things, any grocery items that we need to have, and kind of get out of the what's the word I'm looking for? Get out of the way, because they're going to need the gasoline. They're going to need grocery stuff. So you don't want to rush the gas stations with people who already live here. You don't want to rush the grocery stores with people who already live here. Go ahead and prepare. Be ready so that when they come, they can have it all. Because you only need a little bit to get by until the next few, days. They're going to be having driven all this way, and they're going to need they're going to need to fill up, because the gas stations along the way are going to run out. They're going to run out. They're going to run out. So are grocery stores. So are hotels. I mean, it's really hard. I don't think I'd ever want to live on a coastal town. When people say, well, I want to live by the ocean, I'm like, why? I know it's beautiful. I'd love to visit there. But this guy just almost pulled right into me. He wasn't even looking. That was so dangerous. Big old truck, big 18-wheeler. Because he's got to swing out. But, I was still coming through the intersection. Crazy. But anyway, I wouldn't mind. I was going to say having timeshare. I would, because for one thing, you got to have somebody that facilitates organizing, getting people booked. But also, you have to incur the damage and the insurance costs. So I don't think I'd want a house on the coast. As nice it would be, I'd rather just rent one for people who, they're like, I don't care, I want it. It's like, okay. And they're like, I'd love to rent it to you sometime. I'd be like, well, be happy to, except during hurricane season. We're still in hurricane season. Actually, this is the height of hurricane season right now. And boy, can you see it when you look, y'all, at the... Y'all, am I trying to be the weather girl? I told my life group, because we text each other all day long. I told them, call me Radar. My nickname should be Radar, because I check the radar constantly. I don't know why I'm like that. Today is 9/11. And switching subjects, because I do know why I'm like that. I never was before 9/11. I never looked at my phone for news. I don't even know if we had apps like that back then. I don't remember. But I remember we all had to crowd into a conference room. I was coming into work, and I remember hearing Neil Bortz as I was getting out of the car saying, folks, a plane has just hit the side of a skyscraper in broad daylight on a sunny day, and I have a bad feeling about this. And I remember listening, thinking, wow, a plane crashed into the side of a building. That's weird. Then he said, folks, I hate to be a, not conspiracy theorist, alarmist. He says, but this smells of terrorism. And I remember thinking, terrorism? Here? And I don't think I acknowledged what he was saying. And then when I got inside, I said, y'all, something's happening. And everybody was crowding into conference rooms, because that's where TVs were back then. Now every conference room has a monitor, and you can turn it into a TV if you want, but you use your phone, or your laptop or whatever. But back then people didn't really do that. And I remember just standing there, everybody crowded in, just watching the first building fall, and then seeing a second one crash in, and just, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I'm seeing. Just, I remember thinking, I can't believe this is real. And nobody said a word. And there must have been 30, 40 people crammed into that conference room. And every conference room was like that on our floor. And nobody said a word. And nobody looked at anybody else, because I think everybody was crying. But nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody wanted to make comment. There was no comment that could be made. I don't think we even could comprehend what we were seeing, what exactly it was. Were we at war? Well, certainly we were at war, but what was it, just that city? And nobody stopped to think it could be happening in other cities. And as an admin, as we trickled off and kind of walked back to our desk, there were some people who walked around and said, you know, if you feel the need that you need to go home, you're not going to be in trouble if you go home. But my boss said, no, we need you here. We need to start checking flights on people. We got people in DC. We got people in... And I remember all of a sudden it became very personal. And then I started thinking of my friends who were pilots' wives. And now I have a lot of pilots' wives friends. And they talk about the intel of the day, what was truly happening behind the scenes. And, you know, I don't mean to recount 9/11 overly, unless you just feel like saying, where were you at 9/11? Maybe we should. I don't think we should ever forget it, both because you can forgive our enemies, but you don't forget what they've done. You don't trust them. You prepare. And as Vice President Pence said today, you know, with all the stuff that all the precautions we've taken since then, there's not been another one. And that's because we are doing the right things. We are trying to, you know, it's a hassle going to the airport and having all the security checks. It's a hassle when you go to the stadium and they go through your purse and your picnic baskets. And but it's necessary so that it doesn't happen again. And it's like, oh, okay, well, no, I don't want it to happen again. So, okay, go ahead and check. Because, yeah, you think, well, I'm not doing anything. It's like, but you don't know who is. That's just it. You can't tell by looking. And it used to be that they thought it was faith-based, Muslim faith, but then there started being copycats, and there started to just being people who say, you know, I hate America, or I hate Israel, or I hate... We never even thought about Israel that much before. We never thought about the Muslim faith and how it could infiltrate before, and that it would cause a problem between Muslims and people of other faiths, looking at them differently. And, you know, I had a couple of Muslim friends, and I remember going to the bank, and there was a couple of Muslim people in there. And I remember the lady, her husband was, I think, withdrawing his money out. And she just looked at me and looked down. And I remember thinking, I don't want you to feel like that. But then I thought, but are you? I mean, it was a terrible time of causing suspicion. You know, then people said discrimination, but then you wondered, hey, if you got to be able to tell who's doing this and why are they doing this and who's in on it, who isn't, because the fight against terrorism it's hard to define it sometimes. So all I know is we didn't used to watch storms the way we do now. We didn't used to watch the news the way we do now. Because we have the ability to track everything now, we do. We check it all the time. And I can remember, you know, people say, well, you shouldn't have your phone with you at all time. No, that's why I do. I do check it several times a day. And that's when it started. That terrible, terrible catastrophic storms and 9/11 as far as news, especially politics. I wasn't even interested before until it came on my own soil. That's all I have to say. Some of y'all experienced it firsthand. I'm so sorry. If you had family members, or I had a friend that was telling me what it was like, and I'll never share it because all the images are in my mind, the gruesome things she saw, because she was in New York, and I'm like, I wish she hadn't told me because it's so horrific. It's gruesome stuff, and yet she should have the right to share with someone because she's really troubled by it. Anyway. God have mercy on the United States, the world, and especially right now on the people in the path of Florence. In the name of Jesus. Amen. Talk to y'all soon.